Hi, I'm Kia Murrell. Welcome to This Week at the Capitol.
And I'm Eric George.
Today we're going to tell you about what's been happening up at the Capitol over this last week. It's actually been one of the busier weeks, I think, in the legislative session.
I agree with that.
We had a variety of public hearings and committee meetings, lots of crowds. So I'd like to ask Eric if you could tell us a little bit about what's happening on the healthcare front.
Healthcare has been very active. It's been active all session, but this last week we've seen quite a bit of movement. One of the most problematic bills that we've had so far is Speaker Donovan's healthcare pooling bill. It's something that we've dealt with for years on end now. But this year it really had a lot of momentum, and it was much broader than it's been in years past. I mean, it was touching on tinkering around with small employer health insurance rating laws, really making it a problem for those small employers.
Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Can you just tell our viewers what's pooling? I mean, I know it's not putting a pool in
Sure.
everyone's backyard, so what is it?
It's a good question. Pooling basically is the concept of opening up a state plan, in this case the state employee plan, to new groups, and those groups are not state employees. In this case, it would be small employers. So small employers having access to this. But this bill would go far beyond that. It was also, again, tinkering around with those rating rules. Fortunately, the insurance committee said this is an area that we shouldn't go down. They stripped that piece out of the bill right before they passed it. The pooling piece is still in there, and I'll tell you why it's a problem. It's a problem because the state employee plan is self-insured. That means that it is a risk that is paid for by the state of Connecticut, not an insurance company out there that's going to pay the medical costs. It's the state of Connecticut that has to pay those medical costs. So when you open up the door to groups that you have no idea, it could work out really well if they're healthy. It could work out really poorly if they're not healthy, and then it's really the taxpayers in Connecticut that are going to be on the hook to foot the bill. So that piece is still in there. It's a problem, and it's something that we're going to be working to hopefully stop.
Oh, all right. That's actually good information. For those of you that haven't been following the pooling issue up until this point, definitely check out our government affairs report and our website for more information, because Eric does write a lot about it.
Now, I'd like to say that I was the only one who was busy this week, but I know that's not the case.
No,
so what's been going
not
on
by
in
a
your
long
world?
shot. This week, I actually have been really busy on labor issues. The Labor Committee is nearing its deadline for enacting most of the proposals that it thinks it wants to turn into law. So among the ones that they took up this week were measures to increase the state minimum wage. Some of you may have read about this in the newspaper. Connecticut already has the fourth highest minimum wage in the state. We're at $8.25. This proposal would take us to $9 and then again to $9.75 as originally drafted. Well, yesterday the committee made a few changes to it and basically decided that they would decrease the increase by raising it to $8.75 on January 1st of 2013 and then to $9.25 a year later. Now that sounds reasonable enough because it's just a few nickels and pennies, but really the problem with the legislation is twofold. One, the economy is still languishing. We're still just starting to recover from the recession, and many employers simply don't have the extra funds to,
Sure.
pay increased labor costs. But also, the proposal is looking to index future increases in the minimum wage. And what that really means when you index is you tie future increases to the consumer product
Pricing index.
Yes, I see that's what the problem happens with too many acronyms. So that being said, when you tie it to the CPI, it may be that the rest of the nation does okay and the CPI goes up, but Connecticut actually isn't doing that well. You don't want to build in permanent increases because you really cannot predict for most businesses where your business is likely to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years out. So I think that's probably the one issue that most people have heard of. There were a few other issues that the committee took up, and as always, we write about them, so feel free to check out our website. You'll see that we talk about workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, measures to increase fines and penalties on employers for wage and hour violations, and a whole host of other things.
I like the way you said that, decreasing the increase, because that's really all we have. We still have an increase at the end of the day,
Yeah,
though, right?
that's true.
So that's what's been going on with healthcare and labor, but there was a lot of other things going on as well, huh?
Yeah, and the good thing is I don't know much about the other things that were happening. So I'll just mention and say that there were committee meetings and hearings in the areas of energy, environment. The governor has a big education bill that's going to be talked about a lot, I think, next week. Senate Bill 24.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big issue just because education reform is on everyone's tongue these days. Again, if you haven't already been following it, check it out on CBIA's website. We are very, very active in that area.
And even right now, we actually have a hearing going on over at the Capitol in Finance, Revenue, and Bonding, dealing with some major tax matters that a lot of our businesses, a lot of small businesses are really going to care about. So definitely, stay tuned to stay informed.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I think well said. And on that note, we will bid you a fond farewell and say thank you for checking out This Week at the Capitol. And as always, see CBIA.com for more details.